Yeah, when you see Donald Trump on Saturday try to announce his own arrest, what do you see him doing there?
This is really panic and fear. He knows what's coming on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. He knows what's coming down the pike. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to get the advanced jump onto the story.
Okay, so it took a little bit of time for Michael Cohen to really respond to some of Donald Trump's tweets, the calls for protests and all that came earlier. And while I don't agree on plenty of things with Michael Cohen, I do agree that that is entirely the strategy that Trump was advancing. Now, we're a couple of days past that, and so we can take stock of how it has actually developed. And interestingly, seems like crickets kind of. And what's weirdest about that isn't just that Donald Trump, who is, this huge political figure on the right, who has been able to get violent mobs in the streets before, is having difficulty in doing that once again. And in, this historic time of potentially a former president being arrested, it's that he's unable to do that at a time in which over the past couple of weeks, he has been shooting up in the polling against Ron DeSantis. Like, he is arguably more popular than he has been on the right in some time. And even so, it hasn't manifested outside of, the courthouse and all that, where it's expected that maybe the arrest will happen maybe while we're live right here. Reporters were saying there were more reporters there than actual protesters. And sure, it's New York. This isn't Mar-a-Lago or anything, but there's gotta be some Trump fans, Yasmin, wouldn't you think?
Where are they? I haven't seen them, and from what I've seen of the reporters who are in New York and Washington, D.C., like, there's not a whole lot going on. And you know what, though? You know what I was thinking about? With January 6th, they had a long time to plan their insurrection and whatever it was at the riot, their tour visit, they had a lot of time to plan that. They only were given a couple of days notice here, so they didn't have all the time to organize and get everything set up the way that they wanted to. But I will say, I do love when Michael Cohen weighs in on Mr. Trump. It's my favorite. He so clearly can't stand the guy, but he also usually has some interesting insights into Trump's character and his general modus operandi, which is always so baffling to like normal people. So yeah. He's always a good time for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always funny. I mean, like, he can't help but talk in a way that it really does feel like a mob situation.
He sounds like a mobster, which is just like, it's very entertaining. I like it.
Which is kind of cool, I guess. But anyway, I just want to say one other thing about.
Don't be a hater, John. It is cool. It is cool.
I'm not being a hater. Anyway, I have one other thing I want to say about the Trump thing, though, because we've been following his messaging around this for the past few days, and I'm not going to say that he's been rational for the last 48 hours. We're going to get into some of the comments he's made in just a few, but when it comes to calling for violent protests, he has backed off, right? I mean, he sent out those initial messages. There was a negative reaction, I think, from most sane people in response to that. And I don't feel like he's really continued it. I mean, if those messages were like a panic thing because of his fear of the impending arrest, well, he's much closer to that arrest now than he was. So wouldn't he be more panicked? And yet, there have not been new calls unless, I don't know, maybe I can load Truth Social right now. Maybe he's typing it as we speak. It feels like he's at least backed off of that a little bit, which maybe speaks to his team being a little bit savvier than they would have been in previous years. I mean, they can't necessarily stop his knee-jerk reaction, but it looks like they've sort of taken hold of him since the weekend. And when the stakes are potentially destruction of property or people being killed, I'm glad to see that he hasn't been renewing those calls for people in the streets. If the arrest happens, then we'll see. Maybe they'll come at that point. If he's ever locked up, and I don't anticipate that will happen, God only knows what he'll be communicating to people at that point, Yasmin.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a good point. I always think it's interesting, though, how his team really doesn't seem to have a whole lot of control over the things that he tweets and the things that he just says. Even when he's giving a speech and he has a speech written for him there in front of him, but he still loves to go off the books. We know that Trump loves to go off the books. So, I mean, if his team is responsible for him backing off, then more power to him. Good job. They finally figured out how to do that years after he's already out of office.
Yeah, unfortunately, they weren't able to figure it out before the first coup.
Yeah, better late than never, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I want to turn to a little bit of the substance of what's being debated here. And yeah, I'm gonna preface the video that I'm gonna play in my reaction by saying Look, there's a lot of separate investigations that are moving forward when it comes to Trump, and I'm personally of the position, and I know that this is a radical position to hold, that even if you're powerful, if you commit a crime, even if it's not one we consider major, you should probably suffer the same consequences that anyone else would. Again, radical position, and we could debate: is this the one we would want an impending arrest to come for? And in fact, I say that sort of rhetorically. Let's very briefly, because I haven't gotten Yasmin's opinion on this. Is this the one that you'd like to see? Like, if he does get fingerprinted and indicted and all that, this is the one, not the impending rape case, not the the Fulton County investigation, not the classified documents investigation. A lot of people are saying, oh, there's all this concern about them blowing it and then ruining all the other investigations. What do you think about that big meta conversation?
It is a huge conversation. I mean, this whole scenario is very precedent setting, right? We've never really been in a situation like this, at least not in recent history in the United States of America, where we have a former president who has all these indictments and pending charges against him, right? And he's likely to be found guilty in a lot, if not all of these cases, right? I would love to see some kind of repercussions specifically for the Georgia case. The fact that he tried blatantly to overturn and throw out those votes in a nationwide election, I think that's a huge deal. And I can't believe that more hasn't already been done about it. But I do like and respect the fact that they are doing their due diligence, because it is such a big, important case. And to the other point, it is a little delicate, right? You do have to be delicate, because whenever you're dealing with the presidency, it is very easy to retroactively go back and look at every single president and say, this was illegal, you shouldn't have done this, blah, blah, blah. Everybody is talking right now about George W. Bush because we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary of the war in Iraq, and all of the illegalities of that war, and the fact that all of those repercussions we're still experiencing them today. So they do have to be delicate with it. I respect that, and I hope to see that they are successful in their endeavors, and that none of this really gets blown, maybe not even more out of proportion than it needs to. It has to be handled effectively, and I think that they're doing that. It seems like they are.
Yeah, we'll see. I agree with you. That's the one that, like, if we had to choose, and again, I don't know why we would have to, that's the one that I consider to be most concerning, even more so than some of them are easier to prove, I think, like the classified documents. I don't know how much more clear what happened there could be, but trying to overturn the results of an election at the state level, I think would be the one I would want to look forward to.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.